Good afternoon, everyone. CountryFlyboy here, and today, a new series that I'm going to attempt to do. I'm going to try my hand at reviews. I've done an A2A Cessna 172 review. This is the newest product from Carenado, the SenecaV. They've done a Seneca before, but they've gone and done a newer version. And I have some gripes with it, but, you know, what the frack just happened there? I'm not the only one that saw that, right? That Piper just ghosted right out of the FBO. There was one Piper. There was a yellow Piper over there. I don't know where he went, but... Okay. Oh, please don't come... Oh, Lord, don't turn this way. Well, this was a perfectly good airplane he just smashed up. Anyway. Okay, so basically how I'm going to do this is I'm going to have a rating system. I'm going to go through the reviews and I'm going to do 3 parts to each review for every airplane. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So it'll be the stuff I like, the stuff I'm sort of kind of okay with, and the stuff I hate. The good, the bad, the ugly, in that order. So again, good, I like. Bad, I'm sort of okay with. It's something against it, but you can live with it. And the ugly is stuff that really should, And I'm going to give them a rating system, too. I'm going to rate them on a scale of 0 to 5. 5 being must-have, and 0 being so bad you shouldn't even pirate the darn thing. That's going to be my rating system. So 0, don't even pirate it. 5, go ahead and buy it. Okay, so today is the Carenado SenecaV. So let's get the good out of the way first. They've included both glass and steam cockpit. Unfortunately, Carenado doesn't model multiple cockpits for an airplane. So you pretty much get stuck with what they have. I like this cockpit, I really do, because I learned to fly off of glass gauges. So glass is my preferred kind of gauge. That's just what I like. That's why I love their G1000 add-ons from Carenado, because they're really good, especially the Cessna 206. They did a great job on that one. But I also like steam gauges, but I gotta say, if you can have a good marriage between steam and glass gauges, oh, it's just awesome. And they did a good job with this one, with the Garmin G600, GNS 430, and the GTX 330 down there. There are some gripes with the gauges we'll get into later, but for the most part, this is a pretty good panel. So interior-wise, their texturing is great. Really good texturing here, nice HD textures, and they've included the light-up thing that they did on their more recent add-ons ever since the 206 came out, where if you hover your mouse over a particular knob, it glows greenish to show you which knob you're grabbing, which is great, especially when their older add-ons that didn't do that had terrible click spots. So that's great to have that. Alright, the exterior detail is amazing, aside from a bit of a shadowing bug that pops up when you look at it from a certain angle. It's really hard to get it to do that. I can do it if I... There you go. See, I've seen that happen on not just add-on airplanes. That happens on defaults too. That may be an FSX thing. But exterior of the plane looks great. I do want to note something. They modeled the standard Carenado static elements thing and the passenger baggage door. This aircraft has a third baggage door. If you push Shift E and 3, the nose baggage compartment will open. And I just closed the passenger, so okay. So, yeah. And in there you will find the radar. Yeah, this thing has a weather radar. So, that's awesome. That Piper's going away over there. So, yep. We'll just close those two. So, yeah, as you can see, it works in DirectX 10 and has great lighting effects. Nice bloom on the aircraft there. All where it should be. So exterior and interior, the texturing and detail on the aircraft is amazingly great. Alrighty. Alright, so as you can see, we got pretty good light effects. Nice landing light effect, by the way. Great landing light effect from Carenado there. I really like that one. We got nice strobe reflections on the ground. No nav light reflections, but the nav lights don't seem too terribly bright. And I've never noticed nav lights lighting up the ground in real life anyway. So, yeah. The lights are pretty good on this plane. I do like that beacon light effect that they put on there. But there's one thing that I love about this plane's night lighting effects. If I move the landing lights from steady to off to pulse, I have never ever seen an FS add-on plane that modeled pulsating landing lights. I've heard they've been around, but I've never seen them myself. And Carenado has done it, ladies and gentlemen. They have modeled pulsating landing lights, as you can see, one on, one off. That's used during daylight operations that make the plane more visible to other traffic in the area. So during daylight operations with the landing light, you will turn it on to pulsate, but at night operations, steady burn is what you need to use. And as you can see, it lights up the each area in front of the gauge individually, or front of the aircraft individually. So great job for the pulsating landing light by Carenado. So overall, I gotta say this aircraft is pretty good. If you're wondering, this switch here is the strobe light. You can have either just strobes on or strobe and beacon light. They're on the same switch. So normal flight operations, you'll have beacon and strobe on even when you're in the ramp area. That's just a thing with this aircraft, and to my knowledge, that's how the real Piper Seneca is, and as well as the Piper Seminole, I believe, is like that too. So that's just something with this airplane. So it makes your cleanup a lot easier at night, especially. You only have to flip off the landing light, because you can't flip off the strobes. You turn the beacon light off too. Alright, so overall, I'd say this plane is nice. They have a nice... the only gripe I have about the taxi light is I wish it was a little wider than it is and reached out a little further, but I guess it's okay. Category, the sound is 1. I swear to God, that is the same sound pack they had in the old Carenado Seneca. Which, granted, not too terribly bad. The old Seneca had a great sound for it, but I would just hope for an HD version of the airplane they would have upgraded the sounds a bit. I mean, don't get me wrong, the sounds are great, but the fact that I swear they sound exactly the same as the old Senecas is a bit disappointing. Just a tiny bit disappointing, really. And we'll just take off from this intersection right over here. No need in taxiing all the way down to the end. Alright, so real quick, I want to talk lighting effects. We're going to discuss the panel lights first. They've modeled 4 panel lights for this airplane. This first knob here will let you adjust the brightness of the switch backlighting. That's all it does. The next one here is the actual panel light. There's no variable brightness, which is a big disappointment. And there's only this one panel light that you have to have on if you want to see the other gauges. You can turn it off and still see the displays on the G600 and the GNS 430 fine, but the other gauges, like engine gauges, especially if you're running with EMB or Sweet Effects or something like that, you're definitely going to need to have this on to see the other gauges, which is a bit disappointing considering how well they modeled the panel lighting in the 206 and the 182. So that's a bit of a disappointment from Carenado there. That last knob doesn't work there. There's 2 others. There's this dome light here, which is a flood light for these lights in here. And that gives you some pretty decent lighting here, but again, that's a bright white light that you wouldn't want to use when night flying. And last but not least, we have this blue light, which is, I gotta say, this is a neat one. Oh, my throttles are a bit out of sync there. This would be a good light to use for night flying because it doesn't ruin your night blindness. It's a dimmer blue light. It looks really cool. I like it a lot better than the red light you see on the Carenado, the original Seneca, and some other GA planes. So, yeah, good. I really like that blue light there. It's really neat. Alright, as we start our flight, we'll get into the ugly category, the things I do not like about this airplane. But first of all, I want to add one more thing to the good category. This falls under the DirectX 10 effects. They have pretty decent self-shadowing in the cockpit. Pretty nice. Alrighty, so real quick as I talk, we want to talk first their transponder. They modeled the GTX 330 down here, and they did a terrible job at it. The only buttons you can push at the start, stop, the number keys, and the altimeter, or not altimeter, the altitude mode on button. There's a freeware GTX 330 out there that models pretty much everything with the 330, and it's kind of sad that they really didn't model squat with this gauge here. The GTX 330 is capable of so much more than what they've modeled here. Alright, next thing I want to get into is the audio panel. The audio panel does not work at all. So I can't identify that VOR. There's no way. There's no click spots on the audio panel at all. None of them are there. I can't switch to COM 2. I can't tune and listen to Nav 1 or Nav 2 audio. I can't do any of that. So transponder is limited, and the audio panel doesn't work to save its life. So yeah, that's a pretty bad thing there. Next thing I want to mention here is the avionics. G600, these alerts pop up every now and then, but that's a default flight sim thing. This traffic advisory seems to pop up at random times, whenever it feels like it, and it doesn't go away. It goes away every now and then, but there doesn't seem to be a way to get rid of it. Alright, real quick, do that. And one last thing I want to mention. Note my the GPS is currently on VLOC. CDI is on Nav 1, which is accurate. If I hit the CDI button on the G600, it switches to GPS, but if I were to use nav hold on the autopilot, it would still follow navigation radio because the GPS says VLOC. So basically the CDI on the G600 and the CDI on the GPS are not linked together for some reason. I don't know why, but they don't work. See, now I'm on GPS on the GNS 430, but it's still on nav on the G600. Those two things should be linked together. So yeah, that's a big downer. So just make sure you're on the proper nav source when flying this airplane. Alright, that is the Carenado SenecaV review. Hope you enjoyed it. Rating on this airplane. Well, given the problems with the gauges that I mentioned, especially the audio panel, that's a big one. But overall, the plane looks good. The plane flies good. But it's just the problems it does have will hold you back. So overall, I'm going to have to give Carenado a 2 in the category today. So yeah, it's a 2, and only because of the gauge issues. If it wasn't for those gauge issues, this plane would be a solid 4. Now, I looked up before I did this review that they have published a service pack already, which apparently did fix the audio panel. I don't know if it fixed the CDI or upgraded the GTX 330 the way it should be, but they did fix the audio panel. So that's the biggest problem with the avionics right there, is the audio panel not working. Alright, so with the service pack, I can firmly put this in the 3 category, but I'm going to have to give it a 2 because I go off of how the planes were released, not how they are now. So just note, this plane is a number 2 in the scale, but if you get it, but just note the service pack is out there, so the service pack does fix the audio panel problem, which will put this plane a solid 3. So, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.